Hey everybody, I am Tin Tim, that's T-I-N as in not without my daughter, and T-I-M as in marry me, except I don't really believe in marriage. I am standing here on a street corner in Chicago at 5 in the morning, cruising for sex. I am waiting for the bus to head to the airport to go to Seattle for a few days to visit family for Thanksgiving. So I am sorry that I cannot be in face for this week's video because of my travel schedule. You know, sometimes it's just hard to get everything done, you know, in today's fast-paced, on-the-go world, but, you know, I wanted to keep it glamorous for you all every week, but unfortunately this week that is not possible, so what I am going to do, so that you don't forget about my glamour, is gratuitously cycle photos of myself in drag through the rest of the video. Just so you don't forget about me, you know. In the meantime, here is my everyday boy drag. So now you can all leave comments about how cute I am or whatever. Here we are, 5th episode of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars. For the last several weeks, since I started doing the review videos, I've been watching most of the episodes at a local bar, Spin, which is the official Drag Race logo, Absolute Vodka viewing location here in Chicago. We had a very special guest for this week's screening, Pandora boxx, without whom I would probably not have most of my YouTube channel subscribers, so thanks Pandora. Oh, gotta get on the bus, 1 second.
Route 81.
So I am at O'Hare Airport now, recording on the go. So yes, Pandora boxx hosted this week's episode viewing at Spin nightclub here in Chicago, along with one of my favorite local queens, Debbie Fox, a good friend of mine who you should all keep an eye out for in RuPaul's Drag Race Season 6. I will link to one of her performance videos so that you can see her. Pandora and Debbie did a lot of commentary as a tag team comedy duo, really stole the show from this week's episode. At one point they were on stage as the queens on the show were choreographing their routine. Pandora and Debbie were on stage doing this like kind of modern interpretive dance, kai floor show in recognition of their comedy chops as a duo. I thought that I would structure this week's video a little bit differently and lift a device from Seth and Amy from Saturday Night Live and play a quick game of Really. First off, Betty and Joe beer can, really? So I know that the potential audience for drag is diverse. Some of its subversive potential is in its appeal to mainstream audiences, but I would hope that drag is also a tool for challenging them. Jujubee, you can't believe that you are being asked to choreograph a routine when you could be making costumes. Really? You've been on the show before, you have watched every season, and you are surprised that in the second to last challenge of the season you are being asked to complete more tasks than are truly possible to do well in the time period allotted. That is a surprise to you. Come on now. Come on. Product placement in Raven's phone call home to mom. Really? So we all know that there's a lot of overt and very blatant product placement on RuPaul's Drag Race. Often it's very funny, like that scene in this week's episode of I'm Tucked, that really emotional moment is happening and they're all like weeping, and then they take their napkins to dab at their eyes and they turn them around to show off the Absolute logo. I thought was, you know, that was hilarious. Sometimes I find it just gets to be like a little bit too much, especially this week because I was in the bar at Spin nightclub where, you know, the screening is sponsored by Absolute Vodka, so everywhere I look there are Absolute shot boys walking around with trays of Absolute shots. They're reminding us of the ingredients in, you know, the Absolute drink every chance they get. They're giving us Absolute swag, and then meanwhile Absolute is being pimped just as hard on the screen in front of me. It was all very meta. So I understand that, you know, the show needs sponsors. You know, I think what really bothers me is when, you know, a major corporation like Absolute Vodka tries to take credit for being some kind of progressive social change agent just because they were the first to exploit or market to gay, probably mostly white, gay men with disposable income and alcoholism. RuPaul is a capitalist and an entrepreneur through and through, and a great example of someone who has used the tools of the existing system to create a platform that would not have been there otherwise, and one that is often quite subversive, and I really, give her props for that. But I think, let's not get it twisted. A big company like Absolute Vodka is not an agent for progressive or social justice oriented social transformation, and is not going to be in our existing economic system so long as the only value that we are promoting is profit for shareholders and continuous growth. I also think that all professional drag queens, to a certain extent, are liquor salespeople. I think it is tremendously impressive that the queens are able to promote and to advance what I think is one of the most profound DIY art forms within the context of all that hustling. I have tremendous respect for the work that takes. Chad Michaels. You're making the Hunger Games reference again? Really? The only other thing that I want to talk about from this week's episode is just the intense emotional moments that we saw between team members, between Raven and Jujubee, obviously, but also between Chanel and Chad. And what I really loved was seeing that kind of intimacy between drag queens, between friends, between sisters, represented on screen in a way that I don't think we ever have before. Hearing Chanel talk to Chad about Chad's influence on her as an artist, despite being friends for so many years, to be in continual amazement of what Chad brings to the table, just in my own experience with the queens that I look up to, that have taken me under their wing or claimed me. There is something very special about relating to someone as a friend, but then also really being in awe of them artistically. It's a very particular kind of intimacy, I think, and a very particular kind of relationship. We, as queer people, have the potential always to reinvent what intimacy looks like, to reinvent what relationships look like, and I think that this is a kind of relationship that is very unique to drag queens, to queer spaces, and I just think it's really refreshing and really cool to see that represented, and I wanted to give props to that.